Everybody, I'm Steve Green, and welcome to another exciting episode of Everything is Racist. Well, actually, it's Right Angle with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. But I'm telling you, we could make this a weekly show, the three of us, and never run out of material. So the latest, and I caught this from Kat Timpf over at National Review, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, is racist. Let me see my notes here. On a recent episode of the Geek's Guide to the Galaxy podcast, sci-fi author, so this isn't just some Twitter crank or Facebook idiot, sci-fi author Andrew Duncan said it's hard to miss the repeated notion in Tolkien that some races are just worse than others, or that some peoples are just worse than others, and this seems to me, in the long term, if you embrace this too much, it has dire consequences for yourself and for society. Bill, I think he's got a point here. I want you to put yourself in the hobnailed boots of an Uruk-hai and tell me that you don't feel bad that you're presented as being so much worse than an ordinary orc.
Well, I do want to say that after becoming late in life quite a Tolkien fan, I do have to admit that whenever I do encounter an orc or an Uruk-hai on the street, I do find I'm a little more disposed to think, suspiciously of them than I would have been otherwise. So
Sure.
Perhaps he's got a point. What do you say about this? I mean, where do you start with this? Could you read the one part about one race being better than another, Steve?
Yeah, it's hard to miss the repeated notion that some races are just worse than others, or that some peoples
Okay, hold it
are
right
just
there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, some races are worse than others. In the Tolkien universe, which is what we're talking about, there's no question that some races are worse than others. There's no question about it. The orcs are horrible, cannibalistic monsters that have no compassion whatsoever. And for those of you who claim that I'm a human supremacist, I would point out on the other end of the spectrum that the elves are essentially superior to humans in every way, except for the fact that they don't have a soul, essentially, and they're doomed to stay on the earth until the earth dies. So, yes, elves are better than humans, and humans are better than orcs. And the reason that we put this into fiction is so that we can deal with the issue of good and evil without having to say German or Norwegian or any one of these other opportunities that we have to do this. So not only is Tolkien not generating racism, what he's actually doing is he's presenting archetypes for the behaviors,
For culture.
and he is allowing those archetypes to be the villains or the heroes, as ever the case may be, and just another example, of somebody feeling the necessary desire to provide their progressive bona fides in case they accidentally say something that might be true.
Well, here's a quick follow-up for you, Bill. How can somebody who is a published author look at a great piece of work and not understand in their writer's soul what you just said?
Doesn't have a soul. He's been co-opted. No, he has. He's been co-opted by the collective, by the Borg. He's been fully assimilated, and resistance is futile. You can't make a statement like that as an author without being beholden to this much greater, pressure, which is the pressure to conform with what all the other liberals around you are saying, and not just to agree with it, but to also offer your own little platter of hors d'oeuvres. That's kind of required, too, at one of these kind of intellectual cocktail parties that the progressives have for each other. Not only do they have to all agree on the fare, each one of them has to bring a small dish. They have to bring a small tray, or maybe a potluck, or some mashed potatoes, or candy yams, or something. They have to bring something that they can distribute to other people to show just how wonderfully advanced they are morally and intellectually. And for those people who would claim, because I thought where this was going was, well, there were essentially no black characters in Lord of the Rings. And the reason that there were no black characters in Lord of the Rings is because it's European mythology. So stop trying to co-opt my culture. It is European mythology, and And I wouldn't be complaining if it turned out that Aztec mythology didn't have any Irishmen in it. It wouldn't seem unusual to me, and it wouldn't make me think that the Aztecs were horrible people because they didn't have Irishmen in their mythology. It would make me think that the Aztecs were horrible people because they sacrificed human beings at the rate of 80,000 in a weekend. So it's all very basically straightforward, Steve, and I'm glad you asked me about it because it's just another milestone on the road to hell.
Well, when I saw the headline, I immediately thought of you because out of the three of us, you are the biggest Tolkien fan, and I had to throw this at you. Scott, a slightly different angle. I told you I got this from Kat Timpf at National Review, and on the exact same day, she published both of these articles on Tuesday of this week. It's also been revealed, and I won't bother you with the details because they're just stupid, but Scott, it's also been revealed that Charlie Brown Thanksgiving is also racist. And it occurs to me, Scott, we've got about 4.5 weeks left here in 2018. What else do you think we're going to learn is racist before the new year?
Not all Charlie Brown, just the Thanksgiving show. They didn't include the it's the Great Pumpkin. Charlie Brown is racist,
Christmas,
but
Charlie Brown Christmas seems
is
a little
not
xenophobic to me too, frankly.
A little xenophobic.
Yeah, just wait.
Well, it occurs to me, and not to jump back into Bill's question, but the orcs and many other characters in the Lord of the Rings series are actually captive to evil. They're not evil in themselves. After all, Gollum is a hobbit gone bad. Gollum is a hobbit that fell under the spell of evil and greed and became obsessed and sort of lost all the lovely characteristics that you think of when you think of hobbits. To the same extent, you look at the orcs and the Uruk-hai warriors, and you know that every one of those creatures, some of them were actually bred for battle by the force of evil itself.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
And they're led by. The orcs are led by a character named Saruman the White Wizard, who is maybe the whitest character on the face of the earth, right? Is just this pale, long-haired guy who looks like he belongs in the Dave Allman Band, and he is the one who is manipulating all of this evil. I just had to chuck that in there for those of you who can't see past melatonin issues.
Yes, and I think that, I mean, you don't want to get too, when an author is creating metaphor, you don't want to get too specific and try to nail it down and so say, okay, well, this little bit means that, and that little bit means that, because I think that's too simplistic, and it really takes away the sweep and power of the story. But the idea that those stories are in some way damning particular races it's somebody who completely misses the point of the story, because even Frodo fell under the spell of the ring for a period of time. And the only guy that really kind of escaped it was Sam, who was basically a blundering idiot. And he managed to not fall under the spell of it. It seems like the more intelligent you are, the more likely you are to fall under the spell. But the evil warrior Uruk-hai were being driven into battle. And you know that every one of them knew that if they turned for a moment, they'd be shot in the back by their own troops and by their own commanders. They were cannon fodder. They were just thrown into the breach without care for who they were. And so I think, unfortunately, there are people who make a reputation for themselves by trying to take everything that is good and virtuous in our culture and turn it into something awful. But I think the awfulness in the Lord of the Rings series is really meant to teach us something about our own vulnerability to evil. And to miss that and to try to segment it by race or demography is foolishness and frankly evil in itself.
And one thing left.
Sure.
Tolkien wrote these books prior to and just shortly, I think, after World War II, but largely most of his inspiration came from the years prior to World War II and during World War II. And so when he's talking about a rising evil in the land of darkness, he's talking about the Nazis. He's talking about Germans. He's talking about the whitest people that exist on the planet, except for Saruman, who doesn't actually exist on the planet. So this whole argument is absolute gibberish and nonsense. The whole purpose of the orcs was to show evil in its purest form form, and essentially the orc exterior is the same thing as the stormtrooper exterior. I mean, Nazi stormtroopers, right? It's just a line of robots that are out there to kill. They have no sense of morality of their own, no sense of self-control, nothing. They're just killbots. And I think the science fiction author should stop writing some science fiction, read a little history.
Yeah, that'd be a big, big help. Well, folks, I'm not sure what to do here. Bill just took exactly what I wanted to close.
I'm sorry, buddy.
No, it happens.
I'm sorry.
It
Great
happens,
minds.
and it's part of the fun of doing this live in a conversation, not some scripted crud like we used to have to do. But I will leave you with this one last thought. Sorry, that was a needless dig at the old network. I would like to leave you, I guess, with just one last thought, which is this notion on the left that everything is racist. Let me tell you, that's the problem with white people. And there is your right angle on that. Thanks for watching. This is made possible by the paying members of BillWhittle.com. If you want to keep content like this coming, please click on over, become a member. We'd love to have you on board. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.